there. So the page 17 and bottom of 17, top of 18, there's a whole paragraph about parking. And there's a note that you wrote, Gina. One parking space per bedroom may be excessive. It may be advisable to start from scratch when deciding on parking requirements, as many municipal codes have relied on advice that was based on estimate and peak occupancy. There are more sound methods of determining parking requirements today. So that of course sounds good. Oh, good, you're looking, if you got it there. But I'm wondering whether are those sound requirements, do they tend to be lower requirements?
Yeah.
Okay. If we can maybe actually specify that so that we're not leaving that up for interpretation. Can you make that a little bigger?
I just added this sentence.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm not a parking expert, but actually the leading expert on parking is somebody named Donald Shoup, Shoup. He just passed away, like, I think today or yesterday, very recently.
Okay. So shall we continue then? We left it in 18, right?
Yeah, so let me get to the better size here. Too small. Okay.
Really small.
Too small for me. Okay. So we left off at the top of page 19.
On the top of page 19, okay. Let me check my document so I don't. Okay.
We left off with short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gina, do you have any information about the town's STR program or
I think there is a lot of nonconformity. I think a lot of people are not registering for short-term rentals.
mhm.
And it's very cumbersome to police it.
Right.
One of the things that came up in a meeting recently was that how do we get people to obey regulations without having to, use a stick of going through court and all that stuff? Because there's really a limited amount of resources to do that kind of follow-up.
I seem to remember the conversation being very much in it mostly gave the town some leverage if there were complaints. If somebody had a complaint because there were a lot of parties on their street or excessive parking or whatever, that would give the town some leverage on that basis. But proactive enforcement, you're right, is really difficult.
Yeah.
All right. So the idea here was that that if we actually have and this is what Nan was saying, suggest a special use permit for any STR. But that it seems that if the space is available, that 2 ADUs would be allowed. So I think, we agree about that. So tackling the STR problem is I guess really an enforcement issue, which is not really a zoning issue. Is that right?
Well, at the moment, but some of the regulations some people feel are too strict, like the owner having to be on premises. And those are under discussion for change, possible change.
The owner having to actually be there or live in the unit or part-time?
Yeah, live in the unit or adjacent to it.
Mm-hmm. That's the whole idea. We don't want absentee sort of landlords just,
Hmm. Yeah, that's understandable. And somebody also, yeah, had said that, what if things get out of hand and then the police can't go on the property unless the property owner is there? They can't speak to the property owner if they're not reachable. And also, if you don't have owners on site or nearby, you can just have, LLCs from anywhere owning property in Dryden who have no stake in the well-being of the town or people of the town.
right. And especially that then it soaks up units that are not available then for people who actually live here.
Mhm.
So are you saying, Gina, that the town is looking at revising the STR regulations?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the table. It's not anything that they're working on, you know, imminently.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when that gets to be a live conversation, I hope this committee is involved because it's a big deal. All right. So is there anything else we wanted to say about this section?
So I want to ask a question. If you're using this document to go from to write up recommendations, or just using this for the recommendations, then I should probably delete all of this chatter and just put in what you want to recommend, or if you want to agree with Nan or whatever. Is
Yeah,
that okay?
I was just looking at that. I was thinking, so what is it we want to say? Yeah, we don't need that comment from me. We don't need what Chuck has there. Um,
Ah, doesn't want to delete.
you might be, you're deleting the whole thread. Oops. You didn't want to do that because I think your comment was what we want to save. Can you undo? There.
Chuck's here.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I guess his ears were burning. So you can't delete.
Yeah, I can delete part of it.
Okay. All right. So the main thing is we want to say, maybe kind of add that last sentence and put it in better language, sweetening the pot for making extra residences ADUs instead of STRs. Something there about, we appreciate, uh, what we've already said here is we agree with 2 ADUs should be allowed in any case if there's room on the parcel, regardless of any desire to incentivize ADUs versus STRs.
So we agree
So we
that
agree with this comment there and would support incentives for ADUs. Versus STRs.
and I'm sorry. We agree with the point about 2 ADUs. Or do you want me to spell it out like permitted on the parcel.
Yeah, permitted where there's space. Hey, Chuck.
Hi.
Reducing STRs, thereby reducing STRs.
Um. No, I think the point is that what you've got there, what she has there is we would see, that any STR needs a special use permit.
Okay.
But two ADUs, I guess, should be as of right if the space is sufficient.
So do we have to incentivize the special use permit for all STR? Is that a requirement that we want to put in there?
Well, she's got that here. But this is talking about an accessory building or, a little tiny house in your backyard or something. Right? This is not talking about an apartment within a house that's used for an STR.
Well, ADUs can be attached. They can be attached, they can be freestanding. I'm not sure. Let me see about Dryden's code. I'm sorry. I'm saying generally they can be, but I don't not see, sure what ours says. Okay, number 3 here says only one. Maximum size shall be subordinate to single family dwelling.
Mhm.
If the accessory unit is within a detached accessory structure, so that presupposes it can be attached.
You're reading what the code says about,
So it says if the accessory dwelling unit is within a detached accessory structure, which means that it doesn't have to be.
okay. I don't know. All right. Maybe we should move along with, we'll come back to the actual language. I think our point here is, um, we'd like it to be easier to put up ADUs for people to actually live in and not as easy to have an STR.
So is this wording okay, or you want me to make it more general?
I was trying to move on. We agree with the point, but two ADUs permitted with a space on a parcel. STUs should need a special use permit. Are we saying that that you could have two STUs?
Again, our acronyms all confused here.
No.
Yeah.
Are we saying that you could have two short-term rentals? Or not?
Well, it's not saying anything about that, is it?
All right. I'm reading that whole paragraph again. Okay, I think we've covered it. We're just saying we agree with what Nan has said here.
Okay, so we just want to keep what I've boxed off here.
Yeah, I think so,
Okay, I'm
right?
just gonna delete this whole thing and put it in.
Gina, would you show it one more time, what you wrote? We agree. Okay. Yep. That's good.
I'm looking for where this comment goes. Is it about the first, this is about paragraph 1 there?
PUDs.
Is there a danger of overusing PUDs?
It's just that PUDs have relaxed requirements. They're more specific to a particular project with setbacks and such.
Uh-huh.
So I suppose that hypothetically, you could have somebody trying to set their own rules about development by using PUDs. We haven't seen that.
Well, if there's no precedent for it, then maybe we should just ignore my comment and move on and assume that people won't use it that way. Gina?
And if we can take case by case if it ever happens. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's suggesting, let's see, that it might be best to have some guidelines. I mean, PUD means, my understanding means specifically something that is a little unusual. And there may be a real beneficial purpose to it, not just to the developer, but to the town and to the residents. So, the case by case application is helpful because it gives the town flexibility. But I think she's maybe suggesting here that maybe we want to give a little guidance, that you can't just consider a PUD anywhere. I recommend the town look at locations where they may not be appropriate and incorporate this into the regulations. All right, I guess that's, I would agree with that.
But the next paragraph seems to suggest that guidelines would be helpful. And since no one, if Gina's right, we don't have abuse up to this time, maybe now's a good time to establish some guidelines. So instead of just leaving it, the article doesn't do that. Perhaps we should say we would encourage the use of some guidelines or the development of some guidelines.
Well, I would point out, because I'm looking at my own version of it on my screen as well as the Gina's screen. That last sentence actually is our addition. It actually probably should be a comment and not just put into the document.
Of point 1 or point 2, the
We
last
support
sentence.
under 2, we support this recommendation and encourage that the zoning allow blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
That should be a comment, not, because right now it looks like it's
Yeah, good.
in the document itself. But this is a different comment, Gina. This is not related to Chuck's question, which is on number 1. This is a comment on number 2. Brian, are you asleep yet?
Nope, I'm just listening right along.
Paint dries faster than this.
Oh, I find it quite interesting.
You remember
All right.
much earlier, she suggested the use of diagrams and text boxes from time to time. And I assumed that she meant actually included with the revised law zoning code. And maybe this is a good place for one. Along the lines that PUDs shouldn't just be used anywhere, but where they are used, the following guidelines pertain. I don't know that we know what those are at the moment, but at least we could flag that and somebody could work on it.
Well, item 1 is about the location of PUDs. Item 2 is about density.
Mhm.
Are you saying a diagram in?
It would actually come after 1, but it could, were we to use that technique of text box, I assume that a text box wants to be an example to guide the planning committee in the future, or the planning board for that matter.
Well, I think what you really want is a map.
Uh-huh.
Kind of think that's above our bandwidth. I mean, what she says here, nodal focus or nodal areas and Varna. I mean, I think it's pretty clear what those are.
Mhm.
Thing I do, I like it somewhat vague because, for example, the 2 meetings ago, we were talking about Hanshaw Road at Route 13. And
Right.
the parcels that Cornell owns, it's right across the street from the Armory and just south of the manufactured home park. So that because infrastructure is very close by, that might be a location for more housing. So that's not a current node on anybody's radar. But it might be a well-suited area for new housing because infrastructure, because the opportunities there. So I'm not crazy about putting up a map further than what, what's already in, say, the comprehensive plan. I'm not sure that'd be necessary. Do we have till 3 or 3:30? I saw somewhere that the meeting was till 3.
Um,
I assumed it was a normal time, hour and a half.
yeah.
Jean, are you open till 3:30?
Yep.
Okay, Leonardo?
Yeah, close to it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we can move along and see what, if we think a map or a text box, we could come back to this.
I agree.
Do you want me to put or map in here for now or just leave it as is?
Yeah, add or map.
Is that clear enough, I think? You think?
I can just copy Chuck's comment and okay. Yeah, I can't revise his comment, but I can copy it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Thank you, Gina. So just for my education, can PUDs in the town of Dryden be used outside of nodal areas. Do we have precedent for that long before we started thinking in nodal terms?
You can ask for a PUD wherever you want.
Okay.
It's sort of
Well,
like a
this is-
mini zone.
Mhm.
I think we need to do more work or thinking about PUDs and that we should move on rather than microanalyze this today. I'm not prepared to say anything. I need to learn more about them. And if any of you do and want to continue to work on this, fine, but I don't think it's good use of our time.
Mhm. I mean, I think she makes a really good point. I don't think we need to say yes on everything that she says that we
Uh-huh.
agreed to. So,
Agreed with you, Martha.
No, on the
All right.
other hand, I mean, there is still other people looking at it, and the planning board will still look at this, and if they think that they need to type the language or add things, they will do that too. So we are not finishing up the document.
mhm. Well, how about we just make Chuck's comment here into like a real sentence, like we agree that PUD specifications and outcomes should be stated. PUDs may be a core part of the town's nodal development in the future.
So,
think
Martha,
I think
seem to
that
be-
that sounds good to me, actually.
I'm sorry, they could become an important
Part
something in the future.
of the town's development in the future.
So Martha, this goes back to my question, is there the prospect of a nodal development that would not have PUDs in them?
Yeah, I mean, I think, isn't the point of the zoning so that if you're developing in a node, the zoning that's there, that we're kind of rewriting, that she's rewriting, et cetera, the zoning that's there would enable a developer to build in a nodal area.
A PUD is actually a change of zoning for a particular parcel.
Right, so it may be a tweak of an existing zoning regulation that's, for a node, or it may be right now, for example, remember that, and I'm sorry about my dog making noise, Rosie, cool it. Again, go back to the Hanshaw Road
Mhm.
example. It is, I don't know what it's zoned now, like conservation, or I don't even, I have no idea how it's zoned right now. But my assumption is it's not zoned to allow dense housing development. Would that be correct, Gina?
Right. Yep.
Okay, so if the developer comes in and says, well, right now it can't support housing, but we're putting a whole package together that includes the CDBG grant for the manufactured home, sewage treatment, and we would help put sewer service into this area here, and so we would do all these other things that would be part of this development. Then we see this as something that would be beneficial to the town, and we could accomplish it in this location,
Mhm.
which is not now zoned to do what we propose. But it's sort of like spot zoning. Is that right, Gina? It's like saying that.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, spot zoning, the term spot zoning has very negative connotations, but yeah, it's like a very targeted rezoning for the benefit of,
Okay,
what the
right,
town really wants, something the town really wants.
right. So for example, an example, Chuck, I'm sure you'll remember the East Hill Village development that Cornell was proposing. Lord, was that 14 years ago, 20 years ago?
Mhm.
there was, my understanding is there was no zoning that would really allow them to do this whole broad-based thing that they were doing, that they were proposing for this, a discrete area, but a pretty big area. So they would have needed the town of Ithaca to kind of write zoning that would be appropriate for that whole project. And it was a comprehensive project, it was a big project, a lot of moving parts. And if the town had, the town in that instance has leverage and says, well, yeah, we'll allow you to do X, Y, and Z if you promise to do, you know, A, B, C over here, for example.
Mhm.
So there's it's a, my understanding is a sort of collaborative negotiation between the town and the developer. So I think what Nan is saying here is that the town should specify the goals of a of a PUD. Why would we, town of Dryden, be willing to go into this conversation with a developer? What would we get out of it? Oh, we're gonna get some affordable housing out of it. We're gonna get some help to the manufactured home park, etc.
Mhm.
So am I correct, Gina? Is what Nan's saying here is that that the town really, it can preserve flexibility, but it should really specify some purposes to PUDs? Do we think that's what she's trying to say?
Um, I'm looking at it now. It seems to me that she's saying these are ground rules, like don't even like approach the town unless you're going to make sure that you um fulfill some of these basic needs for any site. So yeah, so like all things are not equal, right? If you want to variance on your setbacks, if you want a variance on your lot coverage, that's one thing. But there are some things that are not negotiable, like you need to have linkage of sidewalks and you need to have landscaping and screening. Those are not to be um, lightly thrown aside.
Mhm. Okay, so if our comment is, we agree the PUD specifications and outcomes should be stated and that they should become, they could become an important part of the town's development in the future.
Mhm.
They must, we should say PUDs, that word they kind of
Mhm.
refers point to outcomes, specifications. Um, how about specification, goals, and criteria? I mean, I guess maybe specifications and criteria the same. All right. Okay. All right, I'm okay with that comment. Does that seem all right?
Mm.
Okay with that?
Do you want to leave, Chuck, you want to leave this part? I mean, it's
No,
kind of repetitive, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What page is this?
Top of
What
21.
one?
21?
Yep.
Okay. It's basically another, I agree.
Yeah,
That's all it amounts to. I think that sentiment was expressed throughout the
Yep.
2045.
yeah, I think just to say here, we agree.
Mhm.
And then add, if you want to add Chuck's language, we agree, this is consistent with the town's interest in.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Sounds good.
I would add development at the end of that. That may slow affordable housing development.
Yep.
Article 12, I see, oh, you know what? Because you've incorporated this as track changes. Go back to page 21. Article 12, section 1. Okay, that, we strongly support this recommendation. At the end of that paragraph should also be a comment instead of an edit.
Martha, should that be yanked over and put in comments?
Yeah, that's what she's doing.
Oh, okay.
And then the next paragraph is the same problem. At the end of paragraph 2, since a major goal of the comprehensive plan, from all of that to the end of it is something, I guess, that I wrote. And it should also be a comment, not an edit.
Yep.
I guess it should end with a question mark after supply at the very end of the. And I guess the quotation marks needs to come inside of the question mark, because Martha's asking a question.
Right. Actually, with a parentheses.
For example, could language such as following be included?
And
That's
so
right, parentheses.
Due
And
to
then-
including,
including diversity of housing types, affordability and adequacy of supply,
yeah, close paren,
close paren,
gotcha.
and quote. Quotation mark, and then the question mark.
No,
I think so. Question mark is outside of that.
The following suggested language should be, it should be close paren and then the quotation. Lauren, you're the boss of the language. Are you reading this?
I'm, what are we doing?
those
There-
quotes go outside all the punctuation. It's not, it's not intuitive in this instance, but
Yeah,
that
here's
is, that is like strunk in white.
yeah, no, this is,
I would say the quotes are on the outside.
Yeah.
Generally, so
no, I'm afraid, and not in this case. Here's what we're saying. For example, could language such as the following be included? My name is Martha Robertson. Is the language. and that you put quotes around that language and then a question mark.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, Martha, and it makes sense, but that is not the rule. But we can change it if you like.
All right, I don't care. Yeah, this is not, okay. I think we get the point gets across, right?
Move on.
I think Gina is right there too.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Really, we're having fun now. Okay. Back to ADUs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see what I see, your clarification is good, Gina. The thing is, we don't require, is it true, we don't require any landlord to live in town? I mean, I can't see how we would require that.
Mm.
I'm sure we don't, and we can't, so we shouldn't do it here. That's your point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
My question, can't you require that they have some representative within so many miles so that they can, if you have a complaint, that somebody can deal with it as opposed to an LCD or something, or other, we don't know where, from Baltimore or what?
hi, Mike.
I,
Well, is that a requirement in the town now for other rentals? I mean, the only difference here on an ADU is that it likely is a new structure, a separate structure from the primary structure. But that's the same as adding an apartment above your garage legally. Right now, is there any regulation about landlords having a local manager?
they might not, but I'm just saying that's something we're looking forward to when we redo ours, because we've run into so much problems where how do you contact the owner and who the owner is and who's going to take care of it. And I'm coming late in it, so I'm sorry. And then the other thing was, in California, ADUs are just for housing. They're not for short-term rental. And I don't know, once they build it, is somebody building it as a short-term rental? Do you want that?
Yeah, we talked about that before. Sorry, Mike.
Okay.
That's a few pages up.
The only situation I know where that, I don't know if it's required, I believe it is, but mobile home communities have a resident manager. And if the actual owner of the park or community is absentee, so be it. There's a resident manager. I think Martha is right that if we don't have it, or who's ever making this point, that if we don't have it for other rentals, we can't require it here. Despite Mike, I
just,
but
yeah,
the
I can understand why you can't use it here, but I'm not involved in the whole thing. I've been catching in and out. Is that I would think that anything rental, even though it's not for ADUs, that it's important that there's somebody you can contact when there's a problem.
I agree.
So is this something within zoning, or would this be some other kind of code enforcement issue? In other words, you need a certificate of occupancy to live in a building. Is there a CO that's required when a rental is established, as well as, somebody owning their building, owning their residence? In
Yeah,
other
I
words,
mean, if it's fit for occupancy, it wouldn't be fit for one person and not fit for another, right?
right, so if there's the process of getting a certificate, a CO, could that also require the name and contact information for local management for any rental? And if that's the appropriate place for that, does that belong here?
You know, we could suggest it, following on Mike's sense that it sure would be nice. And if the planning board feels doesn't belong in the zoning rewrite, they can recommend another place to put it.
Yeah.
But it actually is a hell of a problem. So many renters, and you know, you have an absentee owner that may or may not be responsive. So if the village is pushing or thinking of that, congratulations, it's good thinking. So I'm saying why don't we
Maybe this
make
is
a
an
step in
appropriate
that
place,
direction?
but I think it's a topic that should be discussed because we're going that way because we have so much problems. And maybe in the town you don't, but you don't necessarily have the representatives who would deal with that come to this committee, so.
How about this? How about we keep the comment as follows: we support allowing ADUs to be built without the owner living in the principal dwelling. In other words, that's more or less what she's saying. There's no reason to limit ADU development in that way. However, we support an initiative that would establish clear responsibility for any rental property. Oh boy, I'm stumbling here. However, we would support establishing regulation that identifies responsible party for any rental in the town, something like that.
Martha, in saying that, you're not necessarily confident that it will be included in the zoning revision, but let's say it anyway, to at least let them know that we think it's important.
Yep.
That's a question.
Yeah, yes. We would support establishing. In a sense, we're looking for a registry. I mean,
A responsible person can be contacted if there's problems with the rental of thing.
Yeah, that's
A
simple.
local party that could be contacted if there's problems with the rentals.
feels like there's a noun miss. However, we would support establishing a responsible local contact in the town. How about requiring a listing of a responsible local contact in the town?
And I guess I would be specific so they don't wonder what you're talking about is in regards to rental. You know, support requiring listing of responsible local contact for a rental property in the town. Because then they know exactly what we're talking about.
That's good.
Rental housing development,
Well, for any rental.
or
Yeah.
for any,
Yeah, whether it's a house or a apartment complex,
Okay.
you know.
For dwellings only, not like other uses?
Yeah, I guess so. Rental
Yeah,
house.
that's important to say, yeah.
Okay, so that goes on. together with my comment at the beginning of that, right? Okay, you're gonna put them together, great. Great.
Come on, come on. Okay. Give me a minute. I have to finagle this. Okay.
I hate it when somebody's watching me type. All right,
Well,
good.
I'm not watching you watching me, so I'm okay.
Okay, good. All right, the next one's just an agree. Where is that?
2.
Okay. Good enough.
Mm.
Okay, this is interesting. Gina, you're saying, could an apartment over a garage be excluded by such? So that's a reason against that subordinate
Yep.
clause. Yeah, okay, uh-huh. Sure, you can put those two together. Are you on number 3 there?
Oh, I'm typing away. Nothing is.
Yeah, nothing is happening. What?
Okay.
Frozen in time.
Maybe we should move this part up as an example of why it's a problem.
Thanks for coming, Brian.
Yeah,
How about if I move it over here?
Sure.
Yeah,
Good. All right.
We have about half an hour for
Mhm.
the rest of it, okay?
All right, just the number 5 is a good idea.
Okay.
So. So I'm confused about, so Gina, your comment here, tiny homes are not a separate category. It's all based on square footage, but is Nan suggesting a new category?
That's how I read it because it says consider defining and allowing tiny homes.
Yeah,
Because these were identified as a problematic development, so I don't know where, I mean. So you're
I don't,
saying,
yeah.
Gina, you're saying there's no need to identify tiny home because it's just about square footage?
Well, I'm not saying there's no need for it. I'm just saying there is no category of tiny homes. So she's saying consider defining it. And they were problematic as a development in the town. So how are tiny homes a problem in the town if as long as something meets the minimum square footage, there's
Yeah.
there's no
What's the
extra
minimum
category.
square footage? What's the minimum square
Oh,
footage?
I don't remember offhand. Let me see. Minimum. Let me lot size. Oh, so I guess a tiny home would be building code, wouldn't it? I mean,
Mhm. Yeah. And I'm
so
not even sure what she means. These were identified as problematic. Where were they identified in the original zoning?
I
I
wouldn't
don't know.
want I wouldn't want a tiny one next to me with 100-foot frontage and a 4 by 8 foot building for a house. It would take the value of my house down.
Why?
Well, she's talking about using it as an ADU, Mike.
Oh, okay, as an ADU. Okay, that's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
But if you're allowing tiny houses or defining them, they could also be, how would you outlaw them for being independent of a house on a property? Somebody just wants a house right next to in the village. Of course, we're a different code, but and they want to put in a, 4 by 10 foot house, and there's a bunch of houses around it. I think I would be one of the people that would not be happy because it wouldn't have any, the atmosphere would be changed, would not be a normal community.
I don't understand. You mean because it's small?
Yeah, because it's so small. I'm
I
not saying, I'm just, that's my own personal. I'm just throwing that out. If I was a somebody that lives out in the, county and I, bought myself a piece of property and I built another house that was a nice $200,000, $300,000 house and somebody put a $50,000 little thing next to me. I mean, maybe I'm biased. I'm just, I'm
No,
thinking
but
that,
I understand. I understand the, it will change completely the, I guess, the neighborhood or whatever it is, the space
yeah.
there.
Well, okay,
And you got to think of
That-
other people, so that's not me. I mean,
I mean, that's the argument against, for example, allowing duplexes or quadplexes to be built in a neighborhood, and that's then therefore, that is exactly the the ideology that has made housing so unaffordable in the country of like, I don't want anything that's sort of less expensive looking than mine next to me. I don't want poor people next to me. I don't want,
Okay, yeah.
I worry that, I
but
mean,
people are that way, and you're going to legislate that wake up, people.
no, I think the issue of zoning is about, and the thrust of so much of what we're trying to put in here is to enable less expensive housing to be built through
I'm not
optimal
opposed to that.
expansive use of water and sewer, through reducing lot sizes that are needed, etc. I mean, maybe we just leave this alone because I don't think it's clear. We don't know what is meant by problematic. We don't know what is meant by tiny homes.
That might be a smart move.
Yep.
So delete.
Just take out the comments on this. Good, good. All right. Consider recommendations for wind.
Mm.
That's good. Oh, multiple users. I mean, it seems good. Go ahead and include that. That's great. Hard copies or digital YouTube type guides have videos on. Okay. On how to apply.
Yeah, on so many things.
All right, that sounds fine. Good.
We're also hoping to get maybe some software that will lead people through and they can't go down to the next step unless they've done the previous step. So I personally hope we get that.
Good. Okay. This one we talked about before. Pre-approved designs.
Yeah, right. Last week.
Didn't agree though. We gotta get rid of that.
Yes.
I mean, explore ways is pretty non-committal. It's not
We
saying,
went through a whole discussion about this.
I know.
So I don't want to continue with that conversation.
Okay.
It's not
It would
relevant.
be-
Delete then.
yeah, I think so, right? Okay, I think by saying important recommendation, I was just trying to vary the language from agree or strongly, but that's basically the idea.
This is actually done in practice. Or if you have somebody who wants to have maybe a variance on the setback, that's a good reason, is that it's in keeping with the neighboring properties.
Mhm. Okay. All right, you want to just say we agree?
Yeah.
All right.
Instead of appointment recommendation.
Anyway, it doesn't matter, that's fine. If
Okay.
that- Yeah. All right, agree with Chuck's agree.
Well, we need a stamp, a survey with the seal on it. So that's like one thing that we need a paper copy of. So we could say documents that don't need a raised seal.
are exempt.
I like,
No, digital copies are acceptable except for documents that need a raised seal.
that's good.
Yep.
Good.
That worded okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good. So Chuck, you're saying definitions should be developed and included even if not an allowed use.
Right.
So there's,
I would think that would make the table more clear. So we're not disagreeing over definitions. I mean, people might say this is just a definitional matter and it should be approved. The table should be clear on definitionally what is and isn't.
okay, is that right? There's nothing in the definitions that goes to this?
Right. There's no definition for like data processing center or crypto mining facilities. But I would say to consider that if you're going to include definitions for things that are not allowed, that list could go on forever. But I do agree that it needs to be more specific because we have retail that's not very specific and that could get us into hot water. So I would say maybe consider saying like definitions of allowed uses should be as specific as possible and all that are not specified are excluded. That way you free yourself from trying to think of every possible kind of business because that's going to be outdated anyway. In
Right.
20 years, there's going to be businesses we never thought of now.
Right.
All right, that's good. So a new comment that it basically expands on what Chuck has, but you said,
Do you remember what you said, Gina?
I'll try and replicate it. Um,
you said definitions for allowed uses should be as specific as possible, period. Anything not deemed allowed is prohibited. Or anything not permitted is, okay.
maybe specifically permitted.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great.
And I would maybe put in quotations or quotes, per example, Bitcom and the other thing, what is it?
Data processing.
Yeah. So they know what that you're really talking about. We don't want to write a definition of them, but we want to make it clear that those things aren't.
Good. I like that.
It's also timely, given the moratorium right now.
Right, right.
Not a thing, not a use 20 years ago. And
Yeah, we had a problem with the dog care, day dog care because we didn't have it in our local zone.
Mhm.
I'm not saying this right.
No,
Guide me a little better here. Anything not specifically permitted is prohibited. Future uses can't be entirely predicted. And
but I like that's more specific naming of some of the activities that we are thinking not allowing.
okay,
Yeah, a parentheses after prohibited with Bitcoin blockchain verification facility.
I think they call it a crypto mining facility, or if you want to put Bitcoin,
No, either one's fine.
I'd put both.
Bitcoin.
No, Bitcoin is a specific thing. All right.
When all we're not viable.
No, just a period after crypto mining, and then the next sentence. I
Right.
think. Does it
But-
not?
E.g. Bitcoin blockchain, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And name as many as you can.
Doggy daycare, Mike? You want to put that
No,
in?
that's ours. That doesn't have to be yours.
How about Cobra Farms?
Well, I mean, it also does show that it's not just like because you're technophobes, it's because there are things that just,
Yeah, no, that's fine
not
if you
about.
put that in there. I'm not opposed to that. Because a lot of people don't want to have dog care right next to 20 feet across from their house.
And this
Yeah.
is a relatively new use, correct?
Yeah, it's a new use. The last 15 years, 20.
How was that wording?
Sure. It's
I
good.
think I remember from someplace earlier in the original code. I may not have the language right, but adult bookstores or
Yeah.
what is that could be put in as well after doggy daycare.
Good point.
I think adult bookstore has been around for quite a while.
But in terms, well, it has indeed. So maybe it isn't a good example.
Well, that's an example of something not specifically permitted.
That's
Right.
right.
Okay, I think that's good.
Move on.
Yeah. This goes to that issue of balancing environmental goals and housing goals.
Hmm.
Which I think we can leave that comment as it is.
Okay. And just delete, so that comment becomes the committee's comment and take out Chuck's concurrence.
Mhm.
Copy this so I don't delete the whole chain just in case.
Mhm.
Oops.
Hmm.
Do, 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 do. Okay.
Okay.
Or you could, instead of saying Martha, you could say the group.
Yeah, there's a way.
Won't let me do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I deal with it in a different way.
I, maybe that was just a comment to myself, but I've been learning more about code enforcement and talking to our code officers in the town, and they are stretched thin. And so it occurred to me that as we struggle to increase housing supply for affordability and other reasons, we have a problem there in terms of code enforcement.
Mm.
Okay, does that belong here?
I don't know if it's, I mean, how to attach it to what is said here. I think it actually doesn't belong here because it's, I- Gina, is this part of zoning or is code enforcement, code administration and enforcement?
Well, there's zoning enforcement as well. You know, somebody is
That's right.
not adhering to zoning requirements.
I don't
But
think it hurts to be there. It might not be the perfect spot, but you're
Yeah.
expressing a concern because there is a problem getting code enforcers. There's not enough people doing that as a career.
All right. And we do have a problem, that's for sure.
All right, leave it in. Hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth paragraph on page 26, are you? Go back up, Gina.
26, fifth paragraph is here. Is that not what you mean?
Yeah, it's not what I mean, not a numbered paragraph, go up. All right, you see affordable and you see where the red bar is, the Affordable and Workforce Housing Committee. This was an edit I put into this, there you go. She had the name of the committee wrong.
No, but
So here again, it should be highlighted as a comment and not an edit in the document.
working family housing, I like that.
Well, that's not what we're called, but
Yeah,
now,
How do I take out the edit?
well,
Put it-
you're in,
put in a comment that it ought to be corrected in the final.
you're in track changes, right?
Yeah.
So if you go in and reject that change, it will revert back to Working Family Housing Committee.
And reject this one and say, and then put change working family into workforce.
Yeah. Right.
Good. Done.
Yeah, I've got my document open on my other screen, and so I can see those things where, okay. Okay, great.
Mm.
This is a big one that they recommend in the planning organizations to have a lot of bang for your buck.
What was the only, I'm sorry, that I'm not remembering this, but
Instead of having to go through like the town board and planning board.
yeah, Oh, thank you. So why not put only earlier in the sentence? Doesn't it read better to say in
Yeah.
all districts approve without ugh, darn it.
The
Without only, maybe in parentheses there, the planning board or town board review. Or maybe it doesn't have to be in parentheses, but it seems weird at the end of the sentence. It's hard to tell what it's referring to.
What about that?
Sure.
Should we get rid of this so we avoid
Yeah.
confusion? Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you want me to say that, do you agree with that?
Well, do we want, we're not saying there shouldn't be any standards, so how about I said, do you mean these should be approved without planning board or town board review, comma, assuming? Well, I don't understand. Are you saying they still should get a building permit, right? Is there a zoning permit?
There isn't, is there?
in all districts,
Well, I guess you wouldn't need a zoning permit if you were not looking for a variance.
Or not?
Okay, then say zoning variance permit. Because it
Alright.
doesn't apply across the board.
We could also just say, odd wording, please clarify.
Yeah. But do you want to also say that two-family dwellings should be permitted by right?
Yes.
Yep.
Wherever, not two E's. That
Okay.
wording okay?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. We're getting there. Inclusionary zoning.
are people okay going to 4 o'clock?
I am.
I am.
It's really tough, but I could, but we really got to get through this. Please, please. So perhaps if we could just say what the point is and not wait for you to type in the perfect language, Gina, okay? And we'll review the whole thing when we're done.
Yeah.
So the point here is, she's saying, 10 to 15% of units being inclusionary, and I'm saying, I've seen 20% given as the threshold for the inclusionary incentive, for inclusionary zoning. 10 to 15 is not many units. Usually. And the idea here is you're gonna give the developer some kind of a benefit, streamlined process, more density or something. For including affordable units. Seems to me 10 or 15 is it too low?
Martha, I would agree, and to the extent that Nan says that it is usually, that probably means that it comes off of traditional zoning law. It's definitely too low, and I think we should say in an era of scant affordable housing, it should be considerably higher as our comment.
Well, the trouble is you don't, if this is not literally an affording housing developer who is getting significant tax credit benefits or some other subsidy to development, higher than 20 might make the person just go, oh, I can't do that.
Uh-huh.
I agree.
I mean, 20 is what I've seen.
Well, then let's recommend it instead of saying we've seen.
All right, we
Um,
recommend 20% be the threshold.
Yeah. And that's it, right?
And is 20% kind of the ceiling without bonuses? But couldn't we say we recommend 20% and above that with bonuses and incentives?
Sure. Sure.
Because that's where they would come in.
All right, Gina, if you could just put a comment in there under reply, 20% or higher if there are additional benefits. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That's not controversial, I would imagine.
To
Sounds
me, it
good.
would be
Say,
to insist that they have to build 20%.
no, we're on to the next comment, but do you
Yeah.
want to comment about the 20%?
I just, the guy's out to make money,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we want to have more affordable housing, but we want housing, period. And some people are going to say, nah, I don't want to be involved. I'll go to another community.
Do you think there's a difference? I'm hearing what you're saying. Is the village different from the town in that regard? Or is your comment, does it apply to any developer?
I just think it applies to anybody. I mean, it's very expensive to go out and build things, and
Yeah.
we're having a hard time getting builders to build across the country. And you talk about, oh, we'll make it easier to get your building permit or this so we can encourage you more. And then you come back and say, oh, by the way, we have to build X number at more affordable. And
Okay, the point here is, and I'm really sorry, but I'm really stressed. I really shouldn't be staying past 3:30, but I'm gonna, I really, I hope we don't get into a debate about everything. The point here is this, the idea of inclusionary zoning is that the town would consider putting it some places. It's not everything. This sentence says, consider implementation of inclusionary zoning could be applied to major subdivisions, PUDs, or clustered. So in particular circumstances, this is not for all developers. And it doesn't
Okay.
mean, okay, it's just to
Yeah,
try
yeah,
to,
it's more, yeah. I
okay.
think we shouldn't come back to the point.
okay, let's go by.
Agree with that one. Go ahead with that comment. Okay, again, I don't know whether the zoning law is the place for these things, but that comment is fine. I agree with that. Is this amplifying her comment, Chuck?
Yeah,
It's New York State law now.
yeah,
Okay, that's fine then.
yes.
Okay, that's fine. So is this an additional suggestion?
Yeah, the build out of mobile home communities is actually not happening. They're shrinking nationally for a lot of reasons, and I'm just saying let's make sure the bonuses apply to this to community forms as well.
Okay.
I don't know if it's appropriate to include links.
I mean, it's just it's a comment. It's sort of
Mhm.
educational.
Maybe
That's-
Dan. The link is a really good one on this point.
That sounds good.
Yep. I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, all right.
All right, if I can ask that we like do the final cleanup, Gina, and send it out to us. We probably need like a one pager that kind of summarizes the points that we're trying to make. And
Why is that, Martha? Why do we need that?
maybe not. Maybe we just
boil it down?
what? I mean, just to make it easier for them, but I guess that's not necessary. They're going through the whole thing line by line anyway.
Yep.
Craig said it was fine like this, he said.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to vote on this?
oh yeah, we have a quorum now. Yeah,
Yes, we gotta go. Yes, so,
Did Lauren say that? Thank you.
all
That
right.
was good.
There are a couple places that Gina is gonna finish cleaning up the language, I think on the 15 to 20%, whatever. I move acceptance of this document as our comment on the zoning audit.
A second.
all right. Let's vote. All approving? Please say aye or
Yes.
yes.
Before we shut down, the one comment I want to make about her thrust regarding mobile home, including mobile home regulations within the zoning code. I personally favor that. The one residual form of potential discrimination that could happen pertains, in my mind, to mobile home parks communities, in the sense that the language of as long as they conform to the local aesthetic and appearance, which I believe she tolerates, and many other across the country, that language continues, and it continues to be used to exclude mobile homes from neighborhoods rather than, as in the case of Trumansburg, allowing them regardless of their appearance. I'm not saying I like that, but appearance can be used very subjectively. Not sufficiently pitched roof, doesn't have a porch, the driveway isn't wide enough, et cetera, the setbacks. So we can deal with that another time. I think we've accomplished a lot today. I just want to put a pin in it.
Those would be building code issues, Chuck.
With it?
Yep. Pitch of a roof and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I
We'll
have
think
to
about that.
go.
Bye, Martha, and thank you.
Thanks, everybody. All right, have a good
Yeah.
afternoon.
So, okay, I think the document is approved as it is, right? So we should move on. We can't vote again because we don't have enough quorum now.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those of us who are still on the Zoom, are we comfortable with her recommendation of dropping section 183 and including it within the zoning law?
I'm not aware of what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think it's, yes, she recommend dropping but we did as well.
Mike, we had an independent section in our town law that covered mobile homes and mobile home parks, as they were called then. And following the example of Trumansburg and probably an increasing number of municipalities elsewhere in the country.
I think we did in a previous meeting, we did have that conversation and we agree on dropping. The dropping was a good idea.
So Leonardo, you heard my concern a moment ago. I think there's wisdom in doing that, but there could be some indirect discrimination. In other words, someone might want to fill a lot in with a mobile home, and but let's call it a manufactured home because that's now includes modular homes and several other kinds, including what was called mobile homes in the past. The aesthetic, the appearance is language that appears in, if they are, if they have a substantial foundation equivalent to a site-built home, they are, as Gina said a moment ago, they legally qualify as a the regulation of them through zoning, land use controls should be the equivalent of what would be applied to site-built, stick-built homes. But there's still this language, as long as they are aesthetically in conformance. And people are, I think someone made this point a little earlier, we could have a house that, when Mike was talking about small houses in a neighborhood, tiny houses, et cetera, this is going to be an issue. And tiny houses look an awful lot more like contemporary architecture than mobile homes. So I'm just worrying that discrimination will be softer, but it'll still be around when it comes to mobile
I
home
think
parks.
it will be positive. I assume this document, once it's done, once they go through, there will be other opportunities for public input, and perhaps those comments,
Okay.
be added later on in another sort of
For
space or time where these public comments can be added. But at the moment, we cannot add that kind of suggestion or comments into this document that we already approved as it was done.
all right, I'm okay with that. I'll bring it up at another time.
Okay. Okay. All right, I will send this out to everyone.
Okay, thank you so much.
Gina, thanks very much
Thank you.
Thank you,
for doing that.
everyone.
Very much.
Take care.
Okay.